Today we find ourselves surrounded by different messages about contemplative or meditative kinds of spiritual practices. We're encouraged to be mindful, to be centered and focused in the present moment, to engage in some sort of meditation, whether that be silent meditation or music or other kinds of reflective processes. And in many ways, that stuff is wonderful. But today I want to talk about something that's not often discussed. Our contemplative practices, is meditation as we understand it really required for spiritual growth and development? As I talk about this topic, I want to encourage you to subscribe to this channel, to click the bell so you're notified of future videos, and to think about some comments or questions that you want to share in that comment section. So to start with, and as a framework, I want to say that I'm a contemplative styled person. Things like meditation and spiritual reading and other traditional contemplative practices really work for me. They're what I learned when I was young, and they fit my personality, and they enable me to really grow, and they've enabled me to work through a lot of things so that my spiritual life can be transformative for me. But I also understand that all of these practices grew up in monastic settings. Whether they were Buddhist or Christian monasteries or Hindu ashrams, these are techniques that came out of monastic settings where the focus was contemplative. And you know what? Most people aren't monks. Most people aren't oriented to be monks. It doesn't fit many people's personality or their way of being or how they're hardwired. You know, people who relate really well to contemplative practices are people who tend to be visual, who are linear thinkers, who are oriented in that way. But there's a whole other group of people who aren't. Many of these people are kinesthetically oriented. To be kinesthetic means that you experience the world and yourself and you process information in and through your body. You know, we often can think of Afrocentric religious traditions where loud music and dance are part of the tradition. But it's also true in indigenous communities where dance and drumming and other kinesthetic practices are hallmarks of spirituality. There were a number of years ago, I spoke with a Lakota man. Now, the Lakota people are indigenous people of North America who currently live in the northern plains of the United States. He was a sun dancer. Now, the sun dance is a key ceremony for the Lakota people. The preparation for the sun dance is intense. It takes months to years before someone is really ready. And that often involves, extensive fasting and maybe living in the wilderness. But then the sun dance itself, it's not what you probably think a dance is about. On the time of the sun dance, the community gathers, and the dancers who have prepared, their chests are first pierced in two places with bones. And these bones go in and through and deep, and connected to those bones are leather tethers that in turn connect the dancer to a central pole. And literally for hours, the dancers will dance while they're connected to this central pole until the piercings pull out of their chest and rip the skin. It's a very intense process. It's done with fasting. It's painful. And it's not about endurance. Instead, the focus of the sun dance is to bring healing to the world, to restore balance in the world. And that's what sun dancers aim to do. This man reported to me the deep mystical experience he had as a sun dancer that even years after completing the dance continued to reverberate through his life. This wasn't a contemplative practice. This was a very kinesthetic practice. It was all about his body, and in and through his body, he had this great spiritual opening, this mystical experience. As a spiritual director, I've worked with several people who are kinesthetically oriented. They're dancers, they're musicians, and they find that through dance and music and drumming and other kinesthetic practices that they find that deep connection that is transformative for them. And other contemplative practices, well, they don't work so well for them. So the point of all of this is, I think we need to look and understand more broadly what spiritual practice may be about for an individual. We've done lots of research in neuropsychology about what happens in the brain with meditation and contemplative practices. But we really don't know and understand how kinesthetic practices work. We also don't know the impact of other kinds of practices, like the experience of awe and wonder that Rabbi Heschel wrote so much about and I've spoken about in other videos. So today, consider that spiritual growth and transformation aren't necessarily rooted in contemplative practice, but they're rooted in who we are and the way we're wired as individuals. And that's extremely important for each and every person. Be sure to subscribe to this channel, click the bell, leave me some comments, and know that I appreciate the time you spend with spirituality beyond borders. Have a really great day.